Gourmet number 27, Source of Anger.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the awesome, the action-packed tale of Toriko. Our last chapter, of course, saw us with really at the end, towards the end there, Toriko, hitting the anteater there a few times. I guess you would call him the GT robot, and just nailing him a few times. And now Toriko is actually mad. He's Director Mansom said that he's angry on a cellular level. So he's just gone past he's gone past ludicrous speed, going past ridiculous speed, straight to ludicrous speed. Really, really crazy. And that's how the chapter ended. And that there's going to be this showdown between this GT robot and Toriko. And the GT robot, it reminded me of just like a little angry adolescent, like maybe a middle schooler or something, just the way it was. It was like, oh, you're a smell and you're stinky or something like that at the end of the last chapter. So that's where the chapter leaves off. That's where this one picks up, and he's still with the insults, and he actually uses some bigger words, you bastard, and I'm going to trample your guts and all this stuff. And Toriko's like, oh yeah, that's really good for, for like the proxy of this robot or whatever, and really makes your stupidity shine through, So it's kind of cool too, and then it's also worth noting, this is the little shit that I pick up on that I don't know if other reviewers look at or other people even think about, but this is the stuff that makes me enjoy and like reading this type of series. The next couple of pages are, Komatsu is sitting there next to Director Mansom, and he's just like, man, he's like, I have never seen Toriko this mad. I mean, I've seen him fight some, pretty mean creatures, and I have never seen him this angry. And Mansom goes and says something pretty cool and profound, I thought, and he goes, well, yeah, of course. He goes, why would you be angry at an animal? He goes, with an animal, it's not about good or evil. It's simply survival. That's what it is, right? And I really like that because it kind of goes and it harkens back to his whole, like, I don't kill it unless I'm going to eat it or I'm supposed to capture it type of deal, right? So only if there's a point to it will I kill it, or, of course, to survive. So I like that, how they said that. And then he goes, the reason that he's so pissed off is because this is human, you know what I mean? And Toriko even mentioned in the last chapter, it's only humans can get me pissed off, you know what I mean? So only a human could get me this angry. It seems like humans are the only ones that anger him this much, And Mansom goes and he points that out, and he says, so that's why he's so freaking angry, because of this senseless this nonsense that this thing is brought here from Gourmet Corp. It's senseless. It's not about survival. It's about them being evil and wanting, to hurt others, to hurt other creatures, people, what have you, So I really liked it. I thought it was, just kind of one of those really good watershed moments in the series, at least very early on, that kind of gives you an idea of really just sort of the sense of morality that Toriko has, and really just a little bit about himself, So it really says a lot about him, I think, Anyways, that's just my point, so I will move on then. And the rest of the chapter is really just, it's all really cool, really well-drawn and depicted action is what it is. Toriko then goes and, he comes at him and he just, he tells this little bastard, I'm going to take you out, and he, boom, and I mean, it's just like, you just picture and I can just like picture these blows coming and just, And then they go and they show like his hand, and it's actually kind of like pulsing. I don't know if it's pulsing from the blood within it or what. And he's like, direct punches are going to do nothing to this thing. He's like, it's it's made from this titanium alloy, and it explains that titanium, the way that that it's made is anywhere from 2 to 4 times stronger than iron, and this and that, So this thing winds up going and then goes, and it's covered in this weird like hair or whatever, which we find out later on is this like aramid fiber or something like that. It's called. But that's besides the point right now. So then this thing goes and it starts using this peeler, and the whole time it's trying to talk shit to Toriko too, which really to me was senseless too, because you really want to poke the tiger, man. You really want to poke the tiger, be poking the tiger. Anyways, so he goes and he uses this thing, this peeler or this slicer or whatever, and it just slices right past Toriko's left arm, and just takes off a hunk of flesh. He's like, what the? And he hits him a few more times, and Toriko now is getting a little bloodied, right? He's getting a little blood on his body and his hands, getting a little messed up. And this thing's like, oh, that's my, it's my so-and-so peeler. But instead of it being like a vegetable peeler or a potato peeler, it's a flesh peeler. I'll peel the flesh from your body and then scoop out your innards, you know? And Toriko's like, yeah, whatever, buddy. So Toriko goes, and he goes and comes up, and he's like, you know what? The thing will probably be weakest in its joints. It can't be the titanium. And it has to be weaker, obviously, in the joints is what he surmises. And he winds up going and coming at this thing, and he comes at it with like a knife hand chop. So I'm assuming that, you know, he's using the fork and knife type deal, the knife, and he just goes, you know, and nails this thing, right? And then it goes, and you're thinking, oh, cool, right? It shows this cool side panel of him swatting at it, and you're like, oh, man, he's going to lap his arm right off, right? He goes, and he then goes and pulls his hand back, and his hand's gushing blood, and blood starts gushing from his body and everything. And that's when they talk about, well, the GT robot goes and talks about it's the newest model, and it's covered in this so-and-so fiber. I forget the exact name of it. You know, so then Toriko goes and he figures out, he's like, okay, well, that's why, because the fibers, you know, and he must have fired those at me earlier or whatever. These things cut him. The bottom line is Toriko starts getting messed up is what happens. So it's really kind of cool to see this because it's the first time we've seen Toriko in the series thus far take any real type of damage or actually have any type of, you know, problem defeating anything. You know, for the most part, he's always just kind of laughed it off and chuckled while he, you know, with one hand behind his back, beats the shit out of the creature or the enemy, you know. So this is definitely a cool one, I think. The battle, the way it's depicted so far. So then he goes and he decides, he's like, you know what, because this thing's, you know, of course, going to still come at him, and he's he's making fun of him and everything else, and Toriko goes and he's just like, you know what, I'm going to hit him with the 5-fold spike punch, 5-fold Kugi punch, call it whatever you like, but it is kind of neat when he depicts it. So he's like, boom, 5-fold spike punch, he's, you know, right to this thing's chest, right? And this thing goes, and flies back, and then you kind of see a couple panels of it like moving around like, you know, because it's a robot, obviously. And then the thing goes and he gets back up, right? And you're like, what the fuck? Doesn't even... So Toriko goes and it's cool because he goes into one of those like inner monologue explanations or whatever, and he's like, you know, that's the third time that I've done my, you know, my 5-fold, you know, my 5-fold spike punch today, and you know, it takes a lot out of him. His arm's already sore and everything. And then it talks about how he has 2 different versions of this punch. He has the concentrated one, which he hardly ever uses, and then there's the scatter shot one. The scatter shot one basically just has it has a more of effective radius, but it's not as damaging, you know. Whereas the concentrated one, it takes more out of him, but it's all concentrated in succession right in one spot, therefore causing more damage but to a more minimal area. So that's the best way that I could explain it, and that's the way that it was depicted and explained in the actual chapter. And then it takes a lot out of him, either one that he uses. So he's like, I should have known that my scattered punch, because that's what he just used on him, wouldn't do anything to actually pierce its, you know, its exterior, right? Wouldn't do anything to it. So this thing goes and starts coming at him, right? And this is really, I mean, even Komatsu's getting a little scared over there. Director Mansom's still like, it's funny because at one point he's just like, Komatsu's like, oh my god, and Mansom's like, yep. Toriko always takes it to the limit, you know. he always likes to get good and bloodied in these fights, you know. But Toriko goes and starts getting sliced up pretty bad, you know, taken out pretty bad by this GT robot, and looks like he's taken a good copious amount of damage. And I mean, and it was funny because earlier even Toriko was talking shit when he talked about that peeler, and he's just like, you know, I've peeled worse sunburn than that, you know. So he's kind of tried to get under this thing's skin slowly but surely, you know. No pun intended with that, but you know, trying to get kind of in the head, in the mind of this operator of this GT robot. So he goes and when he goes through this whole inner monologue thing, he kind of surmises that he's got enough left with his left hand for one more punch, but he's going to go and turn his hand first into like the fork, right? So he can actually pierce with it, you know. And then he's like, no, that's no good. No, we're going to go ice pick, right? And he goes and it's his hand is like this with the fork. Is like this, and then when it does the ice pick, it goes and it kind of closes up like that, man, and it's just like, and it just looks like, it just looks badass the way it's drawn, because then you picture like the force that comes behind it. So he's gonna go but he's like, I gotta get the right opening, I gotta hit it in its one weak spot or whatever, right? So you're thinking, well, I think this thing doesn't have any weak spots, right? Not that we've seen anyway. So he goes and he starts. This is where the mental warfare comes in, and this is the part that's really I actually enjoy it, because instead of him just flat out saying, "You motherfucker, I'm gonna kill you," and this and that, and just yelling all these, you know, slurs and things at him, and just atrocities and just, you know, throwing every word under the book at him, Toriko goes and he starts making fun of him. He gets under his skin and he says, "That's all you got? Seriously?" He goes, "You gotta be kidding me. You know what you are? You're like a monkey poking an anthill with a stick." And I love that. I'm going to use that shit sometime, too. I'm going to use it. Mark my words, you'll see that in a future review, or at some point I'll wind up using it on somebody out in the street to piss me off. But he's like, you're like a monkey poking an anthill with a stick. You know what I mean? So, you're like you're real big from afar on something smaller, but the comparison is actually really cool. The analogy that he comes up with, I thought it was funny. But what he's doing is he's trying to egg him on so he can ultimately get him to expose a weakness. And he's like, you know what? You got all these slicers and these shredders and everything else and all this other crap. But you know what? I bet you can't even go and throw a punch. You know, you're such a great operator. I bet you can't even throw a punch. And he's just like, oh yeah, stupid Toriko. He's like, I'm not going to be fooled by you and this and that. You know. And Toriko's like, yeah, whatever, man. He goes, listen. He goes, you can say and do whatever you want, but I don't ever go and deal I don't ever let a monkey poke me with a stick, right? And that's all you are, is a monkey. It's just great because you see this thing just get pissed off and he's like, oh yeah, a monkey? And you can just tell the little snot-nosed brat that's on the other side of it, you know, that's controlling this thing. I picture it as like the 12-year-old in Call of Duty that's like yelling at you, calling you like bitch and motherfucker and telling you to suck his cock, you know, and all those things. That's why I don't play Call of Duty online anymore. So kids younger than some of mine going and calling me names that I wouldn't repeat, you know, without having to go to church on Sunday, for God's sakes. Anyway, so I apologize for getting a little off track over there. So he goes and he eggs him on it, and then that's really, it's the straw that breaks the camel's back when he says that about you're just, I never let a monkey poke me with a stick, right? So all of a sudden this thing goes, oh really, I'll show you a monkey, and it goes and it comes at him and it goes and opens up its anteater face. Right? And it's cool because Toriko can go and he actually kind of saw through its fur to see its joints and everything else, like surmised. And he basically was looking at this thing almost like scanning it for weaknesses, you know? And remember now, too, he's kind of gearing up for this five-fold ice spike punch that he's going to do, right? You know, ice pick punch. So it's cool because in a double-page spread at the end of the chapter, right as this thing goes and opens up its head to kind of, I don't know if was it going to spit something at Toriko or what the deal was, but it exposes the inside of it that looks like it's just sort of like this nucleus, core, brain, whatever, right? And Toriko goes in the double-page spread, it's just like fucking boom, and it just, you know, and then it goes and it's ice pick five-fold spiked punch, and I'm like, oh shit, yeah, and I mean it's just drawn so cool, and I mean just, oh, the lines and the action and the everything. It just, it definitely makes you very excited. So, there it is. See? I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it. Five-fold, oh, and it's a concentrated, I apologize. Five-fold concentrated ice spiked punch, you know, and so that shit is just off the hook, man, otherworldly. The way it's drawn, the way it's depicted, the way he builds up to it, and the way it's described first, so you know it's not just like, move of nuclear death and destruction. It's like, yeah, that's great, where'd you pull that out of your ass, you know? This is cool because it actually explains, and it actually takes it out of him. He can't do them all the time. He has to, you know, find a weakness first. He has to gear up for it. So there's a lot of explanation behind it. It's not just like, I'm strong because I'm strong. Like, there's an actual explanation as to why. Whether it's plausible or not is debatable, but it's cool to see that the author takes enough time and care for his work to actually explain those things in the world to you. And to me, it resonates very strongly. I really enjoy it. So that is how the chapter ends off. And I'm just going to ask simply, what do you think of Toriko and just his badassness at this point? At this point, I'm sure it gets better. I'm sure he fights crazy creatures and beasts and otherworldly demons and everything else. Right now, though, what do you think of Toriko after he just went and lured this thing in with the whole poking a monkey, or I don't let monkeys poke me with sticks, and then just lured him in and just concentrated five-fold spiked ice pick punch from hell? What do you think about that move and just Toriko in general at this point? So, because this is the first time we've really seen him fight any type of have any type of adversity in his fights. Leave your answer to that question in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching all of you in the next one, Nation.
Oh, Toriko just punched me in my fucking head.